Well, C.W. McCall did tell us that Omaha would know what to do with all them pigs, so I guess it makes sense that this week's political figure episode is on bacon. That's Congressman John Bacon of Nebraska's 2nd. Which is crazy, I didn't think I'd be doing 2 episodes on candidates from Nebraska, but here we are. Donald John Bacon was born August 16th, 1963 in Maumence, Illinois. He graduated from Grace Baptist Academy in Kankakee in 1980. He then went on to Northern Illinois University before joining the Air Force in 1985. He ended up serving in the Air Force until 2014. Doing like officer and head honcho shit. And while that sounds honorable, we should probably check to make sure that nobody he ever met in the military was about to deploy somewhere, because then he was just abandoning them and that would be stolen valor, right? We can't have that kind of disgraceful service in office. Just ask the guy you can't convince to get off of your sectional, he'll tell you. Anyway, while in the Air Force, he also got master's degrees from the National War College and the National Defense University and the University of Phoenix. And when he did finally retire from the Air Force, he left looking like a Christmas tree with the Air Force Distinguished Service Medal, 2 Legions of Merits, and 2 Bronze Stars pinned to his chest. And those are just the big ones. He's got a lot more. He is better decorated than your gay friend's condo. After retiring from an incredibly respectable, nearly 3-decade career of service in the Air Force, he decided in 2016 to run for Congress for Nebraska's 2nd. And he has served the suburb of Omaha ever since, even winning this year's Republican primary for his re-election in a landslide despite not having the Nebraska Republican Party's support. But why wouldn't he have his party's support when he already holds the seat? Well, that's because he's one of the most okay-ish congressman in Congress. First off, he's the 12th most bipartisan member of Congress, which sounds like it should be a good thing, except when you're a Republican and your entire party platform is just obstructing everything and then blaming the Democrats for nothing getting done. It makes it really hard to accomplish that when you have members of your party who are, doing their job. But I think where he really lost the support of his party was he signed an open letter saying that he would accept the election results of the 2024 election because, that's his job and the law and, part of the Constitution he defended for 29 years. But Republicans really seem to hate doing their job, the law, and the Constitution. So, his ideals don't really jive with his party very well. Now, I told you he was the 12th most bipartisan member of Congress, and in a body of 435 people, that should be really impressive. And it's really sad that it's not. It is not even a little bit. He is not that bipartisan. It is a depressingly low bar. Like, sure, he voted for the January 6th committee, but he voted against all the articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. But then he voted for the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden, while saying that I feel like impeachment is bad for the country and I don't support it. But he still supported that. He's also of the mindset that, Russia's not our friend and we should support Ukraine, which is, something that shouldn't be a partisan issue, but apparently is. Also a big supporter of Bibi. He's also a big fan of airstrikes in Syria, and just in general, he's just a big fan of us, blowing shit up around the world. Which sort of makes sense, I guess, because he was a head honcho in the turning brown people to miss device delivery branch of the U.S. military for a really long time. He opposes the legalization of marijuana, but also supports federal decriminalization of it, some states' rights bullshit, but whatever, that's better than nothing. On the bright and bipartisan side, he is a supporter of LGBTQ rights and voted for the Respect of Marriage Act to codify gay marriage. Also, alongside Senator Elizabeth Warren on the bright and bipartisan side, he helped lead the charge to rename Department of Defense properties that were named after Confederate traitor tots, which is, again, just mind-boggling that we ever had army bases named after treasonous terrorists. It would be like naming an army base after Benedict Arnold, except worse. He sadly doesn't support getting rid of qualified immunity, but he does support other methods of police reform, like forcing cops to wear body cameras at all time while on duty. He introduced a bill to make lynching a federal crime, which is great, but once again, the fact that it wasn't, what the fuck are we doing here, people? He voted for Biden's infrastructure bill and criticized fellow Republicans for opposing it because, once again, he thinks that sometimes Congress people should do their fucking job. On immigration, he's okay-ish. He supported protection for DACA and Dreamers and offering them a path to citizenship, but then he also supported building a wall. However, he did criticize Trump for declaring an emergency and trying to divert defense funds to build it, but then he didn't vote to override Trump's emergency declaration. See, so up to this point, he is, as a congressman, just super-duper okay-ish. He's about as exciting as a saltine cracker when you're hungry. Not great, but when the only other option in that particular cabinet is a moldy 2-month-old protein shake, it's not bad. But now that you've had some of the saltine cracker, you realize you have no water, and it's about to get much, much worse. Like healthcare, does he think you should have it? No. He wants to get rid of the ACA and replace it with what? Who the fuck knows? They don't. They're Republicans. Damn sure ain't universal healthcare, though, which is the only reasonable replacement for it. He voted for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which has been the most irresponsible economic policy since Reagan. He's also not a climate change denier, per se. He's more of a climate change, we don't really know, despite the experts being 100% in agreement on this, how climate change really happens and how much we affect it decide, and therefore we really shouldn't do anything, drastic. So he's a climate change denier, just one that's afraid of sounding like Marjorie Taylor Greene because he still has some bone in his body that feels embarrassment. He also thinks we should work till we die. When I say we, I mean we, as in specifically people under 40, because those old fuckers got theirs and fuck the rest of us. He wants to raise the age of when anybody under 40 will be able to collect Social Security, but he also wants to get rid of our healthcare access. So, he wants us to work longer but die younger. Then it comes to the issue of women's reproductive rights, where he blows past mostly moderate right into madly MAGA. He believes in zero exception abortion bans. He co-sponsored the Life at Conception bill that would have given a fertilized egg fucking personhood under the 14th Amendment. Do you understand how fucking bonkers that is? He's voted to defund Planned Parenthoods. He's voted for basically every abortion ban he's had the opportunity to vote for. He just clearly really just loathes women. Which is so sad because he was so close to being just okay enough to not fill me with feelings of disdain. Because, sure, he's slightly better than the rest of his party, but that is a bar that is so soul-crushingly low that all of our rich oligarch overlords who are desperately trying to reach it still even haven't been able to build a sub that won't implode before getting there. And sadly, his hateful and oppressive stance on women's rights transitions him, for me, from moderate compared to MAGA to alt-right light. Personhood at conception is just too far over the fucking top. But on the bright side, he has one of the most vulnerable seats in Congress, which is interesting because it's Nebraska. That's 2 vulnerable seats you guys have this year. You've got a big opportunity to change some stuff up. You can elect Dan Osborne, an independent, to the Senate, and you can elect Tony Vargas for Nebraska 2nd, which would be a figurative way to feed a bacon to the graboids without feeling bad about it. Sorry guys, I wasn't gonna let this one go without a Tremors reference, but that was the best one I could come up with. Yeah, I know, I'm disappointed in me too. But just because that was a little disappointing, Nebraska, you guys are finally starting to be interesting going into this election season. So don't use that as an excuse to make us all disappointed in you too. Y'all got this.